So the UK is easing lockdown measures, and that's really despite being the home of Europe's deadliest outbreak thus far. Prime Minister Boris Johnson unveiled his plan for reopening the country's economy yesterday, and this comes after recovering from the coronavirus himself just a month ago. He says that Britain will slowly start to ease restrictions on schools, shops, construction, and manufacturing, even though nearly 32,000 people have died in the pandemic.
Though the death toll has been tragic and the suffering immense, and though we grieve for all those we have lost, it is a fact that by adopting those measures we prevented this country from being engulfed by what could have been a catastrophe in which the reasonable worst-case scenario was 500,000 fatalities. And it's thanks to your effort and sacrifice in stopping the spread of this disease that the death rate is coming down and hospital admissions are coming down. And thanks to you, we've protected our NHS and saved many thousands of lives. And so I know, you know, that it would be madness now to throw away that achievement by allowing a second spike.
For more on this, let's bring in Imtiaz Tyab. He is joining us now from London to talk about this. So Imtiaz, can you take us through the PM's plan? What exactly does this reopening strategy entail?
Vlad, Anne-Marie, good to talk to you. Well, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is actually in Parliament right now, and, well, he's kind of cleaning up what some are calling a, quote, shambolic mess that he left behind after that big televised address to the nation last night. Many Brits were hoping for clarity on the next steps, but were instead left scratching their heads about what they can and cannot do moving forward. Whatever the case, the government does say it has a plan and that it's contained in a 50-page document that the Prime Minister is discussing at this very moment in Parliament. I'm just going to look at my phone and read out a little bit about what Prime Minister Johnson has been saying. He's saying that, and I quote, it's going to be a, quote, supremely difficult balance to strike, reopening the economy, but making sure that the disease doesn't spread. He also has new advice on people wearing face coverings when they're in public transport. But more importantly, he also says that, you know, this progress is going to be monitored very closely. Now, inside that 50-page document also includes a 5-tier alert system, a sketch on when certain dates are going to start opening up. But right now, there's still, again, this confusion here in the UK about what that path forward will be, and the Prime Minister certainly being scrutinized.
You know, here's the thing, Imtiaz, that we've kind of been talking about throughout this whole reopening conversation here in the U.S. as well, is you can lift as many restrictions as you want. If people don't feel like it's safe to go out there, to eat at a restaurant, to work out at a gym, they're just not going to do it. So I'm curious about sort of the sentiment in the UK. Do people feel that it's safe to go out?
Yeah, Anne-Marie, you know, it's a really tough one. And of course, like so many people around the world, people here in the UK also want to sort of kind of go back to normal. You know, they're tired of staying at home. You know, they want to see their families. They want to see their friends. You know, they want to go back to work. They want to go to the pub. You know, and all those sorts of things that you know are sort of symbolic of normal life. But also, people are really concerned about the coronavirus. You know, when you consider 32,000 people have died because of the coronavirus, that hundreds are still dying every day, and that this virus is nowhere near contained. Absolutely, there are plenty of people who are really concerned about going back out there and trying to kind of, you know, re-engage with the real world, if you will, in a way that they may have done in the past. But, you know, I think here in the UK, the old line of keep calm and carry on really does apply to how a lot of people are feeling. You know, we're going to see people still socially distancing and try to keep this virus from spreading. They, of course, want to protect the public healthcare system here from being overrun. But at the same time, you know, people are saying, hey, we really want clarity. You know, we want to feel like we know what's happening next. And if you look at some of the criticism Prime Minister Boris Johnson is getting today, he really hasn't given them that clarity that they're asking for.
Yeah, Imtiaz, I mean, the messaging has changed, as you pointed out, from stay home to stay alert. But that doesn't really tell you anything. I mean, I'm always alert. You know, I don't live in the UK, but I'm just talking generally. I'm always alert about what's going on. But it's hard if you find yourself all of a sudden in a restaurant with a group of people, or it's difficult. I mean, I guess the question becomes, is the message from 10 Downing Street clear to most Britons, or is it still muddy? And if it's still muddy, are people going to even embrace anything that comes out of 10 Downing?
For sure, Vlad. You're absolutely right. And look, you know, Twitter really isn't a barometer of, you know, how well a government is doing or not. But, you know, changing the slogan from stay at home to stay alert has been scathing to the Prime Minister because, again, for a lot of people, they say, what does this even mean? And, you know, here in the UK, you know, governments are much like other governments. You know, they like big slogans that are easy to understand. And stay at home was pretty easy to understand. But stay alert, well, that, again, has people scratching their heads. And from the looks of it, you know, most of these lockdown measures are still in place, which means, you know, people got to stay at home. And so changing the slogan to stay alert, for some, it would seem that, you know, they kind of thought, okay, the Prime Minister is going to announce more freedoms, that, you know, we're going to be able to do things that we really haven't been able to do in the past 2 months. And even though that has kind of changed a little bit, but again, they're just not really getting the kind of clarity that they want. And, you know, it really is just adding to this sort of general sense of confusion that the people I've been speaking to at least say that they have in terms of what the government is trying to say about where Britain is going next, what the stages are going to be, and how this is all going to work. But, you know, I don't think this is a phenomenon unique to the UK. I think governments all over the world, countries all over the world are really struggling with how to communicate to people about what they can do. But, you know, you only have to listen to the Metropolitan Police here in the UK. They're saying, well, you know, the Prime Minister has said that people can now exercise outside as much as they want as long as there's social distancing. But they're saying, well, if they're not, we don't have the capacity to kind of police this. So this is a really tough situation for the government, but again, really tough for the people as well, who just want to have some kind of idea of what their lives are going to be like going forward.
For sure. CBS News correspondent Imtiaz Tyab. Thank you very much, Imtiaz.
My pleasure.